Hey, welcome to my channel, and in today's video I'm going to teach you how to coat square corner bead. So if you want to know how to do this, stick around. We're going to do that next. Okay, I'm on a job site today, so it's going to be a little bit echoey. We have hard floors, hard walls. Everything is hard in here, so it echoes. So hey, in my previous video, I showed you guys how to cut the sheetrock, how to hang it on the door jamb. This works for windows too. And then I showed you how to install a product called Straight Flex Corner Bead. It's an easy to use tape-on corner bead, gives you some great corners. So now let's move on to coating it. All right, now what I'm using here is just general all-purpose mud. It works fine. I normally like to use a +3. It's a lightweight mud. It's a little bit thicker for one. This is straight out of the bucket with just the tiniest water, and it's just too thin. I'm not fond of it because of the thinness. It's made more for taping, and when you tape, you want it thinner. But it will work. We just made drip more, and it has a little bit more glue in it. So it's a little bit stickier feeling, plus it shrinks a tiny bit more than the other muds. But I happen to be skim coating. I wanted a mud that has more glue in it to stick better for my skim coating, so I use this all-purpose regular weight. Now, you don't need to use hot mud, but you could. The advantage to hot mud is this always has a medium deep fill to it, especially in the middle part. And the hot mud shrinks less, so you'll get a better, flatter finish with it. This will shrink more, but it's harder to work with because you got to clean it up so often. So this should work fine. Now the mud still, it looks like it's wet, but again, that's hot mud. It's okay to coat right over hot mud as soon as it's set up. The reason you normally don't want to put wet over wet is because you want to let each coat shrink. And if you go wet over wet, you don't get that first coat shrinkage and then fill that in. So you end up getting that first coat shrinkage on your second coat because you didn't let it shrink the first time. It's best to just let them dry and then do a next coat. But the hot mud doesn't shrink. It's plenty firm, works great for that. Hey, if you like learning these kind of skills and you want to learn how to do it yourself and how to do it right, be sure to click that subscribe button. And if you click the bell icon afterwards, you'll get notified each time we put out a video. And I put a lot of good information that you'll find useful in the description down below this video. Now, as far as the knife, the narrowest knife that I would recommend you use for coating corner bead is an 8-inch knife on the outside. In the inside you can get by with a 6 because it's narrow, but an 8-inch knife would be the minimum. I'm using a 10 because you're going to have a little bit of overhang on your knife, so I'm only going to get about 9 inches here, and then on the next coat I'll use my 12-inch knife and get about 10 or 11 inches, and I just like the feel of it, and it gives me a little bit better, wider coat here. So in slower motion, I normally do this pretty quick. What you can do is get your mud, put as much as you can on your knife, and just set it up here like so. And then just take your knife and grab it, and you start pulling down. You can't go very fast or it's going to drip. So I'm going to have to go a little bit quick here, but you just start laying it down as you go like that. Okay, now let's break it down in slow motion. Okay, first notice how I've got my index finger on the back of the knife. For me, that gives me stability and a better feel and overall control. And I'm holding my knife at roughly a 45-degree angle, and then I just start pulling down and slowly laying the knife flatter and flatter, which spreads it out. Put even pressure from left to right. And notice in this close-up how I didn't leave a buildup on the edge, but an edge on the left is perfectly fine right now. But you want to keep the corner bead edge clean. And then you see this little void or holiday right here. That's okay. You don't have to completely recoat it to fix that. Just slap a little mud on there, and I'll show you that in a second. You could also, if you've got thicker mud, it's a little harder to do with this thin mud, but you can just simply put it on and go that way. Now put a good solid coat on, so when you put this on, don't push too hard, because the more you push, the more you take out like that. So we want to leave a good solid coat on here. So when you're doing square corner bead, you want to do 2 sides at a time, because this side will mess up this side and vice versa. With bullnose, the rounded corner bead, you can do 1 side at a time because you don't coat that center round section, and you can generally keep this side from messing up that side. So I'll show you what I mean by that. Now, after you get it on, you want to do the feathering like we do on everything, which means put your knife against the surface on the outside. You put pressure out here and bend that blade, and you pull it around. You see how it's feathering that outside edge. Now, just leave it right there. Go coat the next side. You can get by with just 2. You don't really have to do all 3 at once. You can do this with a 10 or a 6, whatever works for you. Okay, now I've got 2 sides done. I'm going to come back around here and smooth this first side out. You don't want to put too much pressure again. Stand your knife up about like so, and just do like this. So you're keeping more pressure here because this is solid. It's okay to write on that, and this is feathered, so all you do, again, you can go over it again. If you have a little hickey right there, you can go over it again the same way and smooth it out. Now you would come back and do this side, but before you do, you see these drips that are happening here? If you don't take care of these now, when you wipe this, it'll often push it back over to the other side. So I'm going to show you with this drip, we just clean it off a little bit. Just a quick take care of it. Okay, don't worry about it being perfect. This is your first coat. You're just trying to feel it. The next one, that's where we're going to make it pretty. Okay, the mud has dried overnight. You can see it's dry here. Now the next step is we gotta coat it twice, at least twice. Sometimes you'll need to coat it 3 times if you want it to come out really flat, like for level 5 or something, or if you got it extra deep. So the first step is you gotta get it ready for the next coat. You can't just start mudding it right now, and that's because of these little defects like you see in this picture here. There'll be little defects like lap marks and little things that hang off the corners and that, so we're gonna get rid of those. You can do it 2 ways. It depends on the size of what you're trying to get rid of. If it's a heavy lap mark or anything heavy, you'll wanna sand it. If it's the light stuff like that little picture there, you can just scrape it off. So to scrape it, just get out your knife that you're gonna use for this time, which we're gonna go to a 12-inch knife. So just go around and scrape it and knock all them little things off.
It was playing when we danced on that hot August night when you kissed me. It was playing in my room and you told me on the phone that you missed me. It was just
Now scraping it with this paper that we put on here, this tape on Corner Bead, it is a little easier to damage it. So if you feel like you're damaging it at all, go ahead and just break out your sand pole. All you need to do if you use a sander is just kind of a quick pass. I kind of like using the sander because it levels it out a little bit more. The disadvantage is it leaves more dust, and the dust makes it so your next coat doesn't want to stick quite as good sometimes, but once you get it to stick, it's stuck. It just you may put the mud on and it may kind of roll up and come loose, but once you work it a time or two, it'll go ahead and stick.
we screamed every word at the top of our lungs. Didn't care who heard, and it sure was fun. I'm waiting for a summer song to make me wanna sing along. You gotta turn the radio on.
Okay, now we just kind of want to do the same thing we did yesterday, so I'll show you how that goes.
Waiting for a summer song to make me wanna sing along. You gotta turn the radio on, 'cause I'm waiting for a summer song. The year goes by so slow, the time gets by so fast. Does any how to make that summer last? I'm waiting for a summer song to make me wanna sing along. Gotta leave the radio on.
Okay, this is a good time when an 8-inch knife works good on the middle. The 6 would work, but it's just barely wider, makes it harder. I like an 8 for it, really. Okay, and just like yesterday, after you get the mud on, go ahead and clean up the excess. Very gently scraping like this. Okay, don't worry about cleaning up every single little goober because you're gonna sand it and that'll take care of it tomorrow. Now you see right here, this was really deep from yesterday. You see in the picture here of it dry. So it was pretty deep. This, if you were gonna texture this with something light, you would probably need a third coat just on that little section there because of the way it did that. We're gonna do a skip trowel so I can probably just hide all that with my texture. All right, there's the finished product. Other than a little bit of sanding, a little bit of minor touch up. As always with drywall finishing, you do your light sanding and then touch up any scratches, holes that appear in the mud, the little bubbles and that, anything that needs to be fixed. But that's it. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I try and answer everybody's questions in my comments, and I welcome your comments. And feel free to share our videos on your social media. We greatly appreciate it. So thanks for stopping by. As always, I appreciate you guys a lot, and I look forward to helping you on the next video. So I'll see you next time. Take care.